I'm not crying, you're crying. That video I wanted to share with you if you haven't seen it before, because it symbolizes an incredible moment that we're in. We all are distracted. We are all doing things every single day that rob us just a little bit of that color. And we all have someone in our life that needs us to add to their color, to their vibrancy. My name is Brian Solis. I'm a digital analyst and a digital anthropologist. My day job is studying disruptive technology trends and how it impacts markets, businesses, institutions. As an anthropologist, I study disruptive technologies' impact on behavior, society, norms, cultures, and values, and I have a book called Lifescale that's launching literally right now. And it's my 8th book, but it's my first book that's personal. And when I was putting together the presentation, because I know everybody loves PowerPoint slides, a dear friend of mine was kind of sitting there, and I said, you know, gosh, this is all so brand new for me. I'm not even sure what I want to present and what I want to share. She said, why don't you just tell the story? And so that's what I want to share with you. And this is one of the reasons why that video was so profound for me. It's ironic that over the last 20 years that I would find myself a victim of the technology that I would study or that I use every single day. I was writing what would have been my 8th book, and I failed to get past the proposal stage. That's where this story begins, is that I had no choice but to try to finish a book, but I couldn't finish the book, and blaming writer's block or being busy wasn't the answer. Last year, for those who might have seen my presentation here, I shared some of the research and some of the struggles that I was going through then, but thanks to the work of people like Tristan Harris and all kinds of whistleblowers that have now surfaced, we're starting to learn about the dark side of digital addiction and the intentional design that went into making those apps so addictive. And we're just also now starting to learn about what are the effects of that when we use it every single day. I don't remember the moment when I realized I had a problem. Or I don't remember a moment when I realized there was any issue with being distracted, and I don't think maybe some of us feel that distraction, but we're moving and we're constantly going through life. We're sharing every moment. We're consuming other people's moments. All I know is that I had a problem when I couldn't finish that book proposal. And when I started to reflect on what was going on, I realized that in the previous books, that they were getting harder and harder and harder to write because I was having a harder and harder time diving deeper, allowing myself to focus, allowing creativity to be unlocked. But we have to really ask ourselves some deep down important questions about where we are in life. Because like that video, like me, I didn't realize I was losing color, and if I was losing color, well, there was a filter on Instagram to fix that, that's for sure. But when did we get so busy? I mean, think about it. Ask someone how their South by is going, and they're going to look at you like, oh my God. Or after South by, hey, how you doing? I'm just so busy. That seems to be everybody's response today. It's just, I'm so busy. When did looking at our devices all the time get so normalized? When did we lose focus? I mean, there's so many questions that I have to ask, and I asked myself. The last one being, when did it get so hard to breathe? The challenge was I didn't ask myself any of those questions again until I hit a wall. Because this is fine. This is fine. It's fine that I spend all of my time on my device. It's fine that I've had to ostracize friends and family on social media and now at Thanksgiving over politics. All of this is fine. Anybody see this news the other day? Someone hopped the fence at a zoo to take a picture with a jaguar, a selfie. All common sense tells us not to get in front of a jaguar to take a selfie. But you gotta do it for the likes. You gotta do it. A friend of mine makes these stickers, puts them up at airports. And what's so amazing about it is that I've physically watched people trying to jam their adapter in there, and there's no hope. It's no hope, but they needed that juice so badly. We're all like that, right? Anyone who's at an airport or at the convention center, you know the dance, because we all do it. This is on Kickstarter right now. Right? I mean, anyone here supported it? Okay, good, because I didn't want to make you feel singled out. I backed it. I'm kidding. Who needs this? Anybody? If you need this, let's talk. It's time for intervention. How many people have seen scooters all over Austin? No choice. Okay, how many of you have ridden scooters? Okay, there's an article yesterday that talks about how many people are getting hurt, why this is crazy, why this needs regulation. Everybody's blaming the scooters. What about this side of the equation? It's not just the scooters. What's making it so dangerous is that nobody's paying attention. You know why? Because we're grooming our life to not. Because everything is on that device. That world revolves around us. Ask anybody in ER what last year looked like, and they will tell you that so many pedestrians have come into ER because they just got hit, because they're on their phone, walking into the street. The Netherlands have installed signals that cast the light of what color the signal is on the sidewalk so you could see it and maybe try to save your own life. Again, don't take pictures, selfies with jaguars, right? Same thing. Traffic engineering, having to move the lights to save your life so that you don't get hit by cars is common sense. But I think what's happening is we're being so rewired that common sense is uncommon now. Right? There's a whole new thing called the selfie wrist. Who saw that coming? The whole world is now trying to catch up with all of this stuff. And the challenge that we have is that there is very little insight, very little research being done to the point where we're just reacting and we're learning how to operate being distracted. Everywhere you look, we're seeing just devastating reactions to living a digital life. And look, I'm a tech apologist. I helped launch a lot of these companies. I helped advise a lot of these companies. But when I couldn't write that book, I decided that it wasn't just about the book. I needed to look at what was going on in my own life. When we live in a world where people are getting plastic surgery in the early 20s so that they can look like they're fucking filters, we have a problem. We have a problem. This is what Reed Hastings said in a shareholder call. And he was serious. And it is their biggest competitor. It's everybody's biggest competitor. Psychologists have accused all of these tech companies and exposed what everybody's saying, or what everybody's now starting to learn, that when you use persuasive design techniques on children using YouTube Kids, we got to stop it. Because we have parents who are putting iPads in the hands of their kids at the dinner table so that parents can just either have a moment to breathe or look at their phones, ironically. But that's perpetuating the problem. Like anything that's been bad in our society, we've had to figure it out after the fact, and a lot of us had to learn the hard way about what this does to us. But let me tell you this, after a couple years of research, I have learned some really hard lessons around what this stuff does to your brain, what this stuff does to your health, and what this stuff does to your spirit. Our attention is actually what is traded as a commodity on a lot of these platforms. The more we use them, the more money they make. And so those persuasive design techniques that they use keep you consuming and keep you sharing, because there's money in it for them. And I don't want to make this about the dark side of tech, because I believe, I'm an optimist, we still need tech. I am not giving up my phone. I am not abandoning all of this stuff. I'm just going to be more mindful about how I use it and the purpose that I live in life. Like the father in the video who realized that the one thing he needed to give his child was permission and validation that it is okay to be creative, that it is okay to be different, that it's okay to play the air violin if it makes someone smile. Living your best life is not in this picture right now. That looks like a good breakfast to tell you that, or whatever it is, but we also are part of the problem when we're doing this, because we're telling other people that their life is not up to this standard, that who they are is not as good as this moment. And when we talk about FOMO, this is what we're talking about, is that you are not as good as this. And so that fear of missing out is actually that fear of not being cool enough or relevant enough. And when that starts to take hold of you, and when we're living this digital life and we are so busy and we're multitasking and we're doing all of these things that we're rewiring our brains and our bodies to keep up with life today, that absolutely affects everything. Productivity, creativity, happiness. It affects our relationships, and we just don't know it. And what I wanted to share with you today was you don't have to wait to lose something of value. I lost my book deal. My whole livelihood is based on that. I don't want that to happen. There's a moment for clarity. I think nothing says that. Nothing captures where we are today like this little video I want to share with you. So we're going to switch to that, I think, and we are. Okay. Let me close this. Nothing like a live demo. Anybody ever swipe a pack of cigarettes thinking they were scrolling their feed? All right, we can switch back. It's heartbreaking. It's time to change FOMO to finally over missing out. Creativity starts with individuality and originality. You don't need a filter to be you. You can use a filter to enhance the you want to be. We tell ourselves that we are in control. A little gift that we have called cognitive bias tells us everything is fine until it's not. We manage multiple tasks, devices, and apps all at the same time every day. There's a famous saying that says, you can do anything in the world, just don't try to do everything. at least not at once. We think that because we're getting work done, that we're hustling, or that we're killing it, or nailing it. We believe our work is exceptional because every aspect of our life tells us we are exceptional. When you post something online, everybody tells you, you're amazing. That's amazing. And if you don't get enough validation, if there's not enough likes, you consider or you actually delete it because that can't be a reflection of you. It wasn't just my inability to finish a proposal. It was actually consistent across the board that everything that I was doing was below my standards, or at least below my previous output. I was a victim of living this life. In a way, we all are, because we are being rewired to move faster. Our bodies are rewiring itself to keep us moving faster. Every time we use these devices and these apps and services, we're producing all kinds of chemicals, not just dopamine, all kinds of chemicals that are helping us navigate these things and making us feel like we are in control and doing the right things. And that starts to create new behaviors and new ways of operating your life. But let me tell you this, I was oblivious to it all. But if ignorance is bliss, then awareness is awakening. Once I realized what all of these things were doing to me, it started to make sense. I actually could take a little bit of weight off of my shoulders. There's a quote by Blaise Pascal who says, "All men's miseries derive from not being able to sit in a quiet room alone." Even for those who meditate, and even for those who practice yoga, most of us still get back into the routine that sort of negates the values of that meditation. So it buys us some time, but still. We have two separate attention networks guiding us. There's the conscious system, so we intentionally do something and focus on something, and then there's the unconscious network. This is where persuasive design comes in, because it's very vulnerable to distraction. And so when we're operating in life, we make a cognizant choice to take out our device, and we're choosing in that moment to be in this and not this. And that comes at a cost. How many of you have a shitload of tabs open on your browser right now? Me too, but not anymore. Even something as simple as that adds what's called a cognitive load to you. And that cognitive load has real weight. And parts of your conscious are actually thinking about those tabs, which is why you can't close them. And like any system, when you're doing all of these things, even if you're not focused on them, they are taking away resources for you to be more present, more creative, more mindful about what it is you're working on. By the way, it's not just tabs. How many people in this room feel like they have too much stuff? Yes. How many people did the Marie Kondo challenge? Okay, see all those hands? We've got some stuff to get rid of, because stuff is the physical manifestation of browser tabs. It really is. That's why a lot of people were just, oh, here we go, Salvation Army. Those two are depleting our resources because we mindfully have to be aware that we have all this stuff. And maybe some of you have gotten to the point where you feel guilty, like, yeah, I haven't actually touched that in a while. Some of us receive more than this, by the way, 200 notifications per day. And these notifications give us the semblance that we matter, especially as people are reaching out to us. But like those browser tabs and like stuff, they too are depleting our resources. It's an intoxicating feedback loop, whether we know it or not, that releases all kinds of mental and chemical reactions to move and react and feel like we're in control and also feel good about it. In the work front, we spend upwards of a couple of hours during the workday looking at our phones. That adds up to about 10 hours per week, a little over 40 hours per month. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time taken away from your work, but it's also a lot of time taken away from the quality and the caliber of your work. Most of us will last 45 seconds before shifting our focus. That could be between tabs, that could be to email, that could be looking at your device. It's very difficult to dive deep, to unlock creativity if you're working in 45-second bursts. Multitasking itself is harmful. These are just some of the things that science is already starting to show us that reveal the dark side of multitasking. But we think we're getting things done. That's the thing. It's not uncommon to say, yeah, I'm a millennial. I can totally multitask. That's how I get things done. And I'm Gen X, and I multitask, and I totally get things done until it comes to a book proposal. Because all of these things start to add up, and they start to take your time, especially one of these. One of the early symptoms for me was making mistakes, a lot of mistakes. Even in the research reports that I was writing, I was getting a lot of edits back and things that I just wouldn't do. Or how many times have you sent a text that had, when you reread it, like, what was I even trying to say? You know what you were trying to say. And then when you reread it, there was a disconnect between your brain and your thumbs. Or, oh my goodness, a good friend of mine, Darla, we were laughing the other day. How many of you talk to Siri to dictate your text messages? And then when you leave somebody a voicemail, hey, it's Brian, period. I was wondering if you could call me back, question mark? Not making this stuff up. All of this comes at an opportunity cost. A cost of what we're not doing, and a cost of what we're doing, and a cost of what we're doing to ourselves. There are hard numbers you can put to this. So if I'm spending 40 hours a month on my boss's clock, keeping up with my feeds and my distractions, what else could I have done in 40 hours in a month? There's a lot of things. Probably in a year's time, I could have learned 6 languages and learned the art of French cooking, I'm sure. Think about it. How many times in one day, try to count it, take out a piece of paper. How many times in one day do you reach for your device or check messages in all of the apps or check your feeds for updates or share an experience or a moment or a picture of yourself, or switch between any of the above while you're trying to work? I started doing this, and it was just like, I guess everything's not fine. I had no idea just how much I was giving myself to distractions. They're welcoming. They give us a sense of, actually a false sense of saving us from contending with something that might be challenging or difficult. And when I say that, I want you to think about sitting on a bench without looking at your phone. Just the act of sitting in your own moment, in your own space, is challenging and difficult for some of us. In fact, one of the houses here, one of the activation houses, has a room with a device that's meant to emulate the chaos that you feel in solitude, because it's a thing. we have to take care of ourselves because no one else is going to do it. I think one of the things that I'm inspired by now, mostly, is that we grew up in a time where we ascribed and were taught the routines and the standards of life by our parents who didn't have to deal with any of this. And that was passed down to their parents, our grandparents, and our great-grandparents. All of the standards for happiness and success and normal were defined in a time where none of this was out, and we weren't being compromised by any of this. So we're having to figure it out on our own. And for those who have children, teachers don't have the access or the paychecks to help our children because they don't know either. Because all of this stuff is just now starting to come out. Again, it took me to fail to figure it out. Who knows how long I could have kept going. We have to take care of ourselves because, like that video, we are a guiding light to someone else as well. Someone else who's struggling quietly, in their own way. I studied the effects, as part of a research project, I studied the effects of Snapchat and Instagram and other apps on a woman's definition of beauty and their state of self-esteem. And I interviewed women from the ages of 61 down to 6, and I will tell you this, is that during the qualitative interviews, it was heartbreaking. But throughout the interviews, it stopped becoming research and it started to become therapy. Because at some point, a light would go on where they would say, you asking me these questions is starting to make me think about what I'm doing. But across the board, self-esteem was lower, confidence was lower. Many, especially on the younger side, had already had plastic surgery because that guiding light wasn't there to help them understand what they might have been quietly struggling with or not even realizing. The truth is that we're probably not as productive, happy, or creative as we could be. I thought I was so productive, happy, and creative. But they are all interlinked. Even old school research shows that they're tied together. So your life at work, home, school, your side hustle, your relationships are all a result of how you invest in them and what part of you invest in them. And it's getting really hard, I've noticed, to maintain even some of the deepest relationships in my life because of trying to keep up with everything, because it felt like that's what you're supposed to do. But I will tell you this, in hindsight now, after going through this whole creative and spiritual process, I was the worst husband when I thought I was the best. I wasn't the most present and mindful father when I thought I was the best. Even though I would read my kids bedtime stories every night, it wasn't enough. Because I wasn't mindful. I wasn't truly present. And I definitely wasn't self-aware. And a lot of that comes back to the standards that our parents, and grandparents, and great-grandparents taught us as to what happiness looks like. It's not a mistake that we gave ourselves to all of this intoxicating technology. Part of it is by design, but also part of it is just, it's amazing. Who doesn't love people telling you that you're amazing all the time? Who doesn't love people telling you that you look amazing today or what you shared is amazing? But what is happiness? And what is success? I'll tell you that the pursuit of happiness, I got confused for pleasure and pleasurable moments and stuff. And that's the happiness trap. Happiness with a little h and happiness with a capital H. I will be happy when I have this. Then I will be happy when I have this. Happiness is not a destination in any way, shape, or form. No, nor does it come from any likes or validation that you get online. It's not vanity. It's not accumulating stuff. It is when you breathe in and out. It's when you look at your significant other and you breathe them in and you celebrate that they're in your life. It's when you walk outside and you appreciate the fact that it's raining because we could use some fresh water on this planet. It's taking moments and being present and mindful in all of them and having gratitude for it all. And it's also adding a valuable contribution in life. So that unlocks all kinds of new opportunities in every moment of your day to practice the types of things that start to build new skills and start to break bad habits and bad routines. It's a mindset. It's the belief that happiness is in our power because it's not a journey. It's rooted in how we truly see and feel about ourselves. And I'll tell you that when I began this entire journey, one of the things that I had to revisit were some very simple, basic, but important pillars in my life, like values. Why did I allow myself to be seduced by all of these things? And why do I continue to allow myself to do that? Because when we're seduced by all of this technology and when we see it all around us, it is normal. We might laugh at it, but we're all guilty of it. And as we start to embrace these new technologies and these new apps, they introduce new behaviors and new ways of thinking and new ways of feeling. And as you're introduced to that, your center of reference and how you make decisions about what's in your best interest and the best interest of those around you continue to move. And this is where that life manual that our parents and our grandparents taught us lose their effects. We're moving into new domains where we're making decisions about the rest of our life without actually knowing where we are and why. So going through exercises right now, being mindful of what we're talking about today and questioning what your values are, going through the exercise of writing those down and then scratching them out and doing it again. Because I guarantee you that 95% of us will write the same values down. And we're lying to ourselves because we're going through the acts of telling us what's important because we actually haven't gotten to the point where we realize that we had lost touch with those things that are important to us. Living a happy life is living a fulfilling life. And living a fulfilling life is being okay with where you are and where you're going, or where you're at least trying to go. Having values that help you get that way are reinforced by the purpose of why you're doing those things, and then brought to life by the vision you have where you want to go, and not just waiting for the universe to give it to you, but working toward that vision. And then maybe the universe will say, you are doing good. Wow, because you're working towards it. Creativity is at the core of all of this stuff because, again, it's linked not just to happiness, but to individuality and originality because you're taking a moment to think about what you're doing right now, not everything else. The more you practice creativity, the more creativity you have. You don't use it up. In fact, life is less without creativity, and we're fooled when we have these filters that make any moment look all the more amazing. I mean, who doesn't look cute with bunny ears or dog ears? It's so amazing, but that's not creativity. That's augmented reality. Creativity is a natural part of human thinking and behavior, and at some point in our life, we decided to block it. That video at the beginning was so transformative for me because I didn't realize I was blocking my creativity. Sir Ken Robinson describes creativity as original ideas that have value. We all have the capacity to not just have ideas, but to bring them to life. We all have that. It's not just for some of us. Creativity pushes us to take risks. What you don't see behind it is a PowerPoint flub, because this is the first time I've ever presented this, and I was working on it until like 3 o'clock in the morning. But for those who want to see what's behind this, I'll send it to you. But these are all of the advantages of creativity. But let's just put it this way. It gives you confidence. It actually makes you smile more. It actually, I don't know how many of you believe in the law of attraction, but I had to do a lot of research on it to see where in line there's something there, but also where in line there's other things. The more creative you are, and the more you're working towards your purpose and vision, the more opportunities that come to you. If you feel that you are on the right path, you are on the right path. And that energy, people feel it. Just like when you're in a shitty mood, people feel it. Thank you. But the thing that's a challenge is that what our parents taught us, what our schools taught us, what our jobs teach us, is that you have to follow the rules and do the best thing you can within those rules. In fact, we're managed against them. Our success is determined by them. But it's not. Those rules are old. And those rules were defined in a different time. My parents still cannot tell their friends what I do for a living. They still believe in a 9 to 5. How many of you work 9 to 5? I admire you. High five to you, because I would love some kind of balance in life. Instead, what I have is a day full of meetings and then evenings full of email. I joke. I say, I tried to be creative once, but I got stuck in meetings all day. But without creativity, we actually are confined to comfort zones. And those comfort zones yield the output that we create. But without creativity, there would never be innovation. There would never be hope. There would never be opportunities. Any Pink Floyd fans in the audience? Yes. Oh, man. I miss me some Pink Floyd. There's a line in Shine On You Crazy Diamond. Remember when you were young, you shone like the sun. Shine on, you crazy diamond. There's a quote that says, youth is wasted on the young because they're too young to appreciate the magic of youth. But it could also be said that youth is taken from them. And it is. We tell children at some point in their life, and it's different for all kids, and it was different for all of us, that at some point it's a switch. The stuff that we used to put on the refrigerator is now not what you're supposed to focus on. That we shift from that art and music and poetry and shift to logic and analytics and other linear ways of thinking and problem solving. And it's not a bad thing. You need the balance. But our schools are losing funding all around the country for the arts. But yet right now, in the moment of artificial intelligence and machine learning, you know what the world needs more of right now? Liberal arts, social studies, people who are thinking creatively to solve and create opportunities for these systems so that they do not automate the cognitive biases that are actually holding our worlds back today. There was a difference in that moment when someone shared expression and it was met with, that is not how we operate in life. That is not how we draw our alphabet. Yet the thinking that's behind that can be cultivated and nurtured to be part of your life forever. Who doesn't want someone that takes a project and creatively enhances it and adds value to it? This is my daughter's picture of a peacock. I am celebrating it. I want her to never lose this. This is me at 10 years old playing my first concert on some songs that I had wrote, and that was the last one. I bought a guitar the other day. We don't grow out of creativity. We're educated out of it. And it's reinforced, the lack of creativity, the way we think, in every way that we work. So when we get devices and apps and networks that give us this power to express ourselves and to consume what everybody else is expressing, it's amazing. But it's still not nurturing our imagination and creativity in ways that could actually be more productive, add value and happiness to our life. The reality is that creativity is literally a fountain of youth. There are some studies that are being done right now in senior care facilities where they're learning to dance. They're learning new languages. They're learning to paint. And it is actually helping a lot of the health issues in those senior care facilities. I mean, if anybody's ever visited a senior home, whew. I mean, the fact you have to sign in on a clipboard is already part of the problem. But everything else about it just says, hey, welcome to where you're going to die. We're not dying. We're dead when we're dead. In the meantime, I believe that we can still start learning and unlearning and growing and adding value. David Kelly, who's the founder of IDEO, which is an innovation lab in Silicon Valley, talks about what in his work he's seen that we tend to just assume some people are creative and some people are not. Some people are innovative, some people are not. And a lot of that is sort of the results of how we've went to school and what we've learned and our standards, again, for success. But we're all creative. Little c creative, big C creative. Even just the acts of, if you're right-handed, putting a pencil in your left hand or a pen in your left hand and trying to write your name and doing that over and over again. That's creativity. And it unlocks parts of your brain and your body to just starting to build a discipline of doing things differently. Creativity somehow got stigmatized, yet it is the very essence of happiness. It's the very essence of what makes us who we are and who we are to other people. And I believe this is a moment to be that kid again in school, because your whole life is ahead of you. And it is also because of that moment that you have, that gift that you're going to give yourself to think and breathe, where we could reassess our values and redefine our purpose and our vision. We haven't lost our ability to focus. We just need to reclaim it. We need to take control of everything that's happening in our world right now and how we operate within it rather than being controlled. Because every time you shift your attention away from something, when you multitask, when you reach for your phone, you're essentially rewiring your brain. You're engaging a switch, and it uses up nutrients in your brain to do all of these things. So for example, you're probably going to be more creative in the morning than you are in the afternoon. We think we're doing 4 to 5 things at once, but we're actually not. It's not the way our brains work. When you go to sleep, and this is why sleep is so important, well, for many, many reasons, it replenishes those nutrients. So you start fresh again. And this is why organizing your day with creative tasks at the beginning, rather than checking your social media feeds and checking your inbox in the morning, is so important. Allowing yourself space to be creative. A lot of entrepreneurs I know in the startup world will block time, whether it's in the middle of the night or in the morning, for deep work. And no one can have it. Not for meetings, not for anything else, because that's the time to get it done. And for some of us who procrastinate, like yours truly here, it's this subconscious attempt to avoid what we think is going to be unpleasant. And as I was writing the book, I came across this magical Muhammad Ali quote. He's got a lot of them. But he said something like, "I hated every minute that I trained, but I envisioned what living life like a champion would be. And that's all I thought about going through that training." I know, I love Muhammad Ali too. Solving the problem is about rethinking the work. We have to frame it as the outcome and what life is like after we do the work, so that we can add positive and creative energy to what we're going to do to bring it to life in a new way. Your brain typically takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to return to a project after you've been distracted. Even though you're actually doing the project, you're not fully in the project, which is why you probably, like me, send texts that make no sense, because it's in here, but it's misfiring along the way. We have to give ourselves the time and the energy to be creative. In fact, I've switched to single tasking as a matter of ritual. Because depending on who you study, and it's all helpful, so it's a matter of personal taste. If you allow yourself to work in at least bursts of 25 minutes or up to 2 hours in a moment without distractions, you are already creating not only something that's going to be better, but you're building the skills and the expertise and the mindset as you go. So for example, a great place to start is what's called the Pomodoro Technique, which is the tomato kitchen timer. Or the vinyl, for those who love having turntables. It's about the same thing, because you can work in 25-minute bursts. And I'll tell you, the vinyl one I love mostly because it's not just time, but it's also sensory. The process of picking up a needle or getting vinyl out of its sleeve and smelling it and placing it there on the turntable and listening to the crackling as you lay the needle down on it is very therapeutic. But working in 25-minute bursts, the first test that I did when I tried the Pomodoro Technique, I think I lasted 2 minutes. I caught myself reaching for the, it was off, but I still reached for the phone because it was in my muscle memory. Just, of course, that's what I do after 2 minutes. It's out of my control. And it took a while to be able to burst in 25 minutes. But there are other techniques, and you can build up to this. The 52 plus 7, which is people who use time tracking software, they've been able to map what the 1% of the most productive people do, and they work in 52-minute bursts and then a 7-minute break. Pomodoro's 25-minute burst, 5-minute break. Then there's 90. There's a 90-minute burst. You work your way up to that. All of these things, I'll be honest with you, I am not at the 90-minute burst. Still working through this, but it's a process. You have to structure your day and your life, everything that you do, to allow for deep work or just a creative project in your life and shallow stuff. And we have to accept and appreciate that most of the stuff you do when you're on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat or TikTok, as fun and amazing as it is, my goodness, some of the best videos I've seen are on TikTok. But that's more shallow engagement. It's more superficial engagement for life. And like anything, moderation is important. And if you send an email to brian@briansolis.com, I'll give you this deck. But this is a bunch of things that you could start when you leave this. I want to at least leave some time for Q&A. Just do me a favor and color outside of the fucking lines. Pick up a crayon. Even broken crayon, still color. Do something creative. Just wake up. Give yourself a journey. Give yourself time. Give yourself inspiration. Give yourself motivation to change your life for a positive direction where creativity becomes part of who you are. Give yourself the permission to let go of this being online present. This online presence all the time is actually killing us, even though we mistake it for validation and self-confidence and self-expression. All of these things can be still used. But once you're mindful about who you are, who you're trying to become, everything else becomes intentional about reinforcing that. You were not put on this planet to validate your existence through the false validations of strangers. You are more important, able, and beautiful beyond any number of likes or followers. We just need to see that side of you. Because true happiness and true creativity happens when you live your life like no one is watching. The gift of awareness is something that I hope you give yourself leaving here, but then I ask that you give that gift to someone else around you because they're struggling with a lot of this. And there's no one telling them in Austin, Texas, what to do differently. So I made this sort of in celebration of this moment to believe in your selfie, and then I said, no, believe in yourself. I made a t-shirt about it so that I could remind myself. Had it printed yesterday. Believe in yourself when you know who you are, because it's contagious, and we need that. I've got a book signing at 12:30. I made 500 of these stickers. If you want one, you don't even have to buy a book. Just come and get a sticker because I want to spread this word. Everybody, thank you very much. Believe in yourself. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.